All right, welcome to the Addicted Hunting Podcast. Today we're going to be talking about shed hunting. We've had a lot of people contact us with questions on just getting started with shed hunting. They're kind of, I guess, insecure about the subject because they don't know, so we're going to touch on a few beginner tips to get everybody started. And
then we're also going to tell you some badass stories that we got.
Yeah, we got some good stories, and hopefully you guys can learn something from this. I'm Sean Keller.
I'm Josh Handy.
Andrew Thompson.
Marlon Lefevre. And as always, guys, make sure you please leave us a review on iTunes, Google Play, all the different platforms, because when you leave us those reviews, it helps us get in front of more people, and we really want to get this podcast out to as many people as possible and try to influence the hunting community to do good and teach people and get more hunters out there. So share this out there. Please leave us reviews, comments, give us feedback. We want to hear it. Even if it's negative, we don't care. Just comment.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we want to hear from you guys. So let's start from the source. So why do deer and elk shed their antlers? A lot of people probably don't know this, but
Hormones.
It's because they feel bad for us and they want to leave gifts in the woods.
Oh,
Exactly.
That's the reason.
Exactly.
That's the reason why they shed their antlers. So they feel for us like we feel for them.
I thought it was scientific. Like,
I'll give the scientific.
Or hormones or something like that.
So what happens is as the testosterone depletes in the animal over the winter, essentially like the bone structure around the base of their antlers starts to deteriorate, and they drop their antlers. And we like to go pick them up because they're cool little...
They're pretty neat.
Yeah, they're cool.
People always ask me, like, what's your drive? Like, why, Cameron Black,
Why do you wanna
so
do
a lot
that?
of you guys, people out there, like, he just doesn't get it. Like, what's the drive to go out and try to find an antler? And I've thought about it a lot. Like, what is my drive for it? And to me, it's like, every time you walk up on, like, a big antler or even just a fresh antler or an antler in general.
You get like a kid in the candy store.
Yeah. It's like you just get this, like, cool feeling like, dude, I just hiked 7 miles or 6 miles and I finally found one. I don't know. It's just... And then on top of that, every antler is unique. So that's my favorite part about shed hunting is that they're all different. Every antler, every buck that drops an antler, it's something different. So you get a new story of, like, a different buck every time you find one.
Yeah, and it's kind of cool to see, like... Not only is it exciting, but you also get to see like what style of bucks or how big bucks are getting in the area.
Yeah, if you're tracking bucks or if you got them on camera and stuff and you want to pick up their horns or you want to see how big they've grown that year.
Yeah, absolutely, a scouting tool. Yeah,
it is a scouting tool, and not only you'll find bucks that you never even had on camera, and that you never even knew about, which is super cool to me too. So,
well, not only that, but like getting out there in the spring, like everybody gets cabin fever. Like this is the first opportunity to really get out and stretch your legs and, go do some hiking. It might be in some snow, but it's fun.
Well, and it's a great way to stay in shape for hunting season.
Yeah, it's the start of training for me.
Yeah, that's one of the things I've always loved about it. Is like I feel like it's just a good, healthy exercise just to be out active. And then finding sheds is bonus.
Absolutely.
I always am taking just pictures of the mountains and the scenery, and that sounds lame if you want to think it that way, but at the end of the day, like, I think it's amazing. And that's kind of what drives me for being out there. Like, don't get me wrong, at the end of the day, when I haven't found one, I'm pissed. But at the same time, I still have the pictures and the memories from being out there that day, and it just makes me want to go even more the next time to try to find one.
Yeah. Well, and when you're a diehard hunter, fisherman, there's off seasons, and off seasons are tough. And when you can fill in the gaps with getting out in the woods and doing something like shed hunting, it's a bonus to me. And you add all those factors in, it's an adventure. You're scouting, you're getting exercise, like all these different things, and it's a great little. And what's cool is you can take your family. I mean, you can do it with your wives, your kids. It's just awesome to get out there and spend time in the woods.
So I think we should kind of structure this podcast. All you guys listening, I think what we should do is talk about deer first, since that's what dropped. Deer are dropping, and then elk drop later in the year. So I think we should talk about deer first. Josh, why? When I first originally invited you shed hunting, were you like, yeah, because you've been hunting for your whole life, but you've never shed hunted. Why? You just never really.
No, honestly, I just never thought to do it. I was like, yeah, that's cool, horns, whatever. But I mean, it is like mostly for me, is because I'm just so into springer fishing, that when it's a good time to shed hunt, I'm usually on the river.
Doesn't that
Um,
seem like with everything, there's
There's always
something
else
good with
going
fishing
on.
when it comes to good with hunting.
Yeah.
Like,
But I do, like when we first time we went shed hunting, I realized, how nice it is to get back into the woods after you've been out of the woods for so many months. It's kind of like it breaks it up a little bit more, so where I'm not fishing all the freaking time. Because that's why I hunt, to give me a break from fishing. And it's almost like hunting is like puts you in a different gear, in a different mindset. It's not stressful.
And you don't
Shed
go
hunting's
9
super-
months without spending any time in the woods. And then
Yeah,
you get out there
exactly.
opening day of deer season or elk season, and you're like, oh my gosh, you're you're out of shape or whatever. So
Yeah, that's a big factor too. I think it's just getting out in the woods and getting some feet or some miles under the boots is nice. Obviously.
I forgot one thing that, I personally don't do it, but it can be profitable as well.
yeah, people buy and sell antlers.
There are antler buyers out there, and I don't do it. I keep them for my own personal
You got to get
pleasure.
really good and find a lot of them. I feel
Yeah.
like to make money.
But people in other states, and
No, for sure.
there is a you can be profitable.
And I think
Picking up
elk
antlers.
sheds in particular, that's where you really can make some
That's
money
where
is
you
with
can
elk
make
sheds.
Those sheds mean too much to me. I'm not selling them.
I don't.
Like,
I can't.
I
I've
don't-
never sold any of mine.
So I've gotten rid of quite a few like old ones, like because every year you find like last year, was a bad year for me, and I still found like 40 white, just old sheds.
Yeah.
I considered it a bad year because I found like 2 fresh ones.
Yeah.
I always sell kind of the older ones off at garage sales and stuff, or give them to my dogs, or cut them up and give them. They're great dog chew toys, if you can
Yeah.
let your dogs chew on them.
That's one thing that the dogs love them. Even if a dog's never seen an antler, if you cut a piece
bone.
up and give it to them, they're gonna chew it up. They love them.
I
They love
decorate. I just use it for decorations. I have
Yeah.
a giant elk shed on my kitchen counter, and then the biggest deer shed I ever found is sitting on my coffee table.
Yeah, let's talk about that. So
Wait.
quickly,
No, I want to. Let's start from the beginning.
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. So quickly, let's talk about like breaking it down for these people about how to do it.
So people are going to wonder, like, when do you start shed hunting, right? So deer generally don't start dropping their antlers till like mid-January, but I've seen them drop as early as like the end of December. But
It all depends on the year and
Yeah.
the hormone. How the feed
yeah,
has a lot to do with it too.
every year is different. So deer will drop their horns from like say mid-December all the way into March, and then elk are generally from like February to April. They drop a little bit later. We don't start deer shed hunting until March usually.
Usually, yeah.
If especially like if there's like a bunch of snow, like you don't want to be out there like pushing animals around
No.
when there's a bunch of snow and it's their wintering time. Like that's just a big no-no.
Well, not only that, like when you find the deer, right? You find them, they're in an area. You want them to drop their sheds in that area that
you
you
don't
found
want-
them.
you
So
don't wanna
go
push them out of
out of the area.
Exactly. Yep. And on the west side, like when you're shed hunting for like blacktail deer, like we don't really get snow as
No.
bad over here in the wintertime, so you can really shed hunt for blacktails all year long.
Yeah.
You want to do it in the wintertime when like the foliage isn't like blooming because you can see the sheds easier. You
Yeah.
know, as soon as they get covered up, you're not going to find them.
Hats
Oh,
off-
it makes
hats
it
off to
so
those guys.
tough.
Yeah.
Hats off to those guys that shed hunt like on the west side of us. 'cause
Yeah, so
that
have
is
you guys
gnarly.
found any west side sheds? Like, and anyone out there listening, we're in Washington and Oregon in the Pacific Northwest. We understand there's a lot of you out there watching that aren't from the Pacific Northwest. So when we're talking west side, we're meaning like the west side of Washington State or
West
the
side
west
of
side of
Cascades.
Oregon.
Like coastal, yes.
Basically,
Yes,
and
coastal.
the country over here is gnarly. I mean, it's thick. There's briar patch. I mean,
It's a jungle.
it's a jungle, really is. And so and then blacktail, of course, they like to live in the most gnarly stuff they can find. So finding their shed is tough.
Very.
How many of
It
you
is.
found, Sean?
I've only found like 3 or 4, and I don't shed hunt a lot on the west side. I do it like when I'm out hunting,
Yeah.
and I look for them,
I
and that's
found
when
old ones, but
yeah.
I've never found like
When
super
they're white
fresh.
and easy to find.
I found a
Yeah.
pretty nice one this year during hunting season, and I was stoked because like I just don't find them that often on the west side. But
So last year, I'm like, I was really into it. The last couple years, I got really into shed hunting, and I'm like, right down the road from where I live, there's a state park that has a ton of deer in it, tons of deer in it.
yeah,
And I'm like, oh, dude, I'm going to shed hunt the hell out of this. I'm going to go all over this park. I'm going to find them. Dude, I hiked all over in there, all over the deer trails. I even jumped deer, dude. I didn't find anything. It's so thick. Like, you would have to step on it. You would have to step right on it. You're just not going to find them.
Mhm.
yep.
I
It's
found a
just so
few elk
tough.
sheds, but I've only found maybe like 2 or 3 blacktail sheds, and they were white.
Yeah, you got to work hard for blacktail sheds, and there's guys that are really good at it.
Mhm.
And
Your
has-
uncle.
Yeah, he is really good. He has a pile of blacktail horns and some
Really?
like impressive ones, like double main beam bucks, like crazy bucks.
Wow.
And I go shed hunting with him at least once a year, but we're normally looking for elk sheds.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, so we kind of want to touch on some like tips for beginners. And my first tip is to know what the deer are doing when they're in between those months of where they're going to shed their antlers. That's number one, is knowing where those deer are at.
Do some
And
pre-scouting.
It's the same thing as scouting for hunting, but you're scouting for sheds, and you're just keeping an eye on those deer all year long. Or I do it. I keep an eye on them all year long. But knowing where those deer are feeding, what they're feeding on, their bedding areas. A lot of sheds you'll find laying in a deer bed.
right next to it.
Yep.
Yeah. Right next to a bush they were eating on.
Exactly.
Fence
And
lines, all kinds of stuff.
And then you go into like mule deer, they migrate. So you kind of have to key in on their migration patterns.
Mm-hmm.
And that varies from state to state, area to area.
Sit behind your binoculars and spotting scope and just watch deer for a day.
Exactly.
In the area.
If you want the biggest tip I got from someone when I first started was like, I was like, dude, where do you find them? Like, it's so hard to figure out. Like, there's so many areas. The biggest and easiest way is go on your state WDFW or Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife or whatever state you live in, and find where the wintering areas are. Find where the deer winter.
Or if they have their migration patterns.
And most of the
Yeah.
state websites have that information. You can
Yeah.
find that information. They'll tell you where there are. There's even places where they feed them.
Yeah.
So if you want to find the antlers, that's the best tip that you can offer a beginner.
With the feeding though, a lot of those feed stations have a date that you are not allowed to go in there.
Yeah, check your regulations.
Check your regulations of whether you're allowed to shed hunt or not in that particular area, because there are a lot of closures for winter grounds for feeding to keep these deer fed.
There's statewide closures. There's some areas
Yeah.
that they just have areas that are closed down,
And
and
then
then
other-
there's states that have the whole state is closed down
Yeah.
until a certain date
Yeah.
to protect these animals in their wintering areas, which they
you
should.
don't want
I
to
mean,
push them around
just
in
don't stress 'em.
snow and stress them out, and they're already under enough pressure.
A lot of
Exactly.
times they're starving. They're
Yeah.
literally haven't eaten for a long time, so they don't want to use any energy. So, and
Yeah.
if you make them use energy, that's a lot of times what'll kill them.
Yep.
Yeah, we can go off on a
And
tangent
so we
on
want to
that,
protect this resource, obviously. So just keep that in mind when you're going out shed
but
hunting.
be diligent about it and don't push them around.
Absolutely.
Like, we made an early trip this year, but there was no snow, and honestly, we didn't even see that many deer because they were all up high still.
Yep. And that's the only reason why we did that trip early, is because it was like it
There was
felt
no
like
s-
it was 70 degrees
there
out.
was
I
no
mean, it
snow
was,
It was. I
yeah.
remember we were all kind of getting nervous, like, oh, here we go, another shed year where all the deer drop up where we can't get them.
Yep.
Yeah.
But another tip that, I mean, this is pretty common, but for anybody that hasn't done any research on shed hunting is, you think about wintertime, it's snowing. Well, the south-facing slopes get the least amount of sun. So essentially,
the most.
or I mean, I'm sorry, the most
They-
amount of
they-
sun.
they'll-
You want to go where the least amount of sun is.
Stay
I'm
off
trying-
them
I'm trying-
south-facing slopes,
Stay
guys.
off them south
Go
facing
straight to the
slopes.
north side.
I really like
They
north,
like the 4 feet of snow.
north and east.
So they get the most amount of sun. So those deer are generally hanging out on those south-facing slopes.
Why is
and
that?
They're staying warm, and there's more feed there.
There's more feed there
Yeah.
because it melts faster.
Yep. So that's something to keep in mind, but that's not a end-all, be-all. Like,
No, it
No.
doesn't mean that's the only place you're going to find
Exactly.
And
shit.
keep that in mind too, everyone. Like a lot of these tips, like I thought I had. There's been so many years where I'm like, yes, I have sheds figured out. I'm gonna get so many every year now, and it's just not how it works.
Yep.
There's years where you do really good, and there's years where it's tough.
Well, and they could be like this year. They might have been traveling when the snow was falling, and your shed. There's probably a lot of sheds buried underneath snow right now.
mm-hmm.
So you got to keep that in
It's been a
mind.
weird year.
It was a very late
Late
Snow.
late.
Shh, now you're giving up too much, Andrew.
bleep.
Shh, bleep that, Clint. Hey, shout out to Clint, everyone. If you guys are listening to this hunting podcast, we are trying to get these things back rolling and put one of these out for you guys every week. And Clint our humble production assistant, has been helping us do that. And it's been amazing. Say thanks to Clint, and thanks so much for tuning in with us,
We
guys.
appreciate you, Clint. There was a couple months where we didn't have a podcast. We didn't do a podcast.
Yeah,
record
it's a little
podcast.
snafu and
Yeah.
things happened, but we're on track now. So
Yeah.
we're back
Back in
rolling.
the game.
But
Back roll. Another tip that I wanted to bring up, Sean, is cover ground.
A lot.
Hike. Don't.
Zigzag.
I'm notorious for just these people. They're like, I went shed hunting and I didn't find any. I'm like, okay, well, yeah, well, I went 3 miles. I did this loop. Dude, 3 miles ain't gonna cut it. Like, you need to do 13 miles. Like, that's just, there's areas where you said, like, you can find certain places where they might be congregated, but dude, just covering miles, I've just found that that's the most effective way.
You
to
could
really-
literally cover 3 miles in probably a mile and a half straight line by zigzagging.
Oh, yeah.
Just going back, and because that's how I do it. I mean, I just find an area and I just beat it up. I'd go down, come back over 50 yards, 75 yards, come back up. Go over another 50, 75 yards, go back down. And just cover that area within
That's what
sight.
Tim said he was doing, right? He was kind of grid searching.
Yeah, gridding or just kind of zigzagging.
Yeah.
and I need to zigzag more, but I'm
Me
more
too.
like when I get out there, I'm out there to like adventure and just go like bomb around, and I just like to hike because it's fun to me.
Well, if you have guys with you, you don't have to do it. Like if you're shed hunting in a group, like you can stagger yourself like we did and just go 75, 80 yards apart and just
Yeah, well, we obviously didn't do that good a job.
Phil
Phil was nowhere near us.
But another thing, it's not much different than hunting. Find deer trails.
Yeah.
Find where they're hanging out.
fresh tracks, fresh sign.
Follow deer trails. A lot of horns we find are
Right on the trail.
off
Yep.
the trail. So keep that in mind. Like I said, I need to get better at zigzagging and covering,
Yeah.
but I'll just get on deer trails and I'll bomb, and I'll just keep following them forever, and then I'll come back and I'll get on a trail below there and I'll follow it. And I mean, that's my strategy. It works
and
good
it's
for
productive.
me. Yeah.
I mean, it's not like it's not productive. It's just a style. I mean,
Yeah, another thing to think about too is one thing you taught me is fences. Deer have to jump fences, and a lot of times
or
when
go under.
exactly, and a lot of times when they go under it or jump over it, it knocks the antler off, and
Yep.
so it's we've done good on fence lines.
Yep.
Fences, ditch lines, any like change in topography,
yeah.
or any like cliff edge or anything like that. They jump off that and it jars their head enough, and their antlers will fall off. So
Yeah, I got one tip. Look behind you.
that's a great
Change your angle, because when you're walking and you're walking uphill or whatever, and you got a whole different angle, but when you stop and take a look back, it could be a whole different angle. You can find it behind that bush that you walked right by, or that you
Dude,
didn't really take a peek at.
Literally, one of the biggest sheds that I've ever found, which is this one, chewed up a little bit, but we were sitting there talking. We were talking for 15 minutes, standing in this spot. Me and my buddy Travis, we're sitting there talking, and literally, I turn around, and it was underneath, like a squirrel or something. We think had drug it, and the antler was like all the way up underneath the tree
That
like
was with
this.
me.
Oh, was that with you?
Yeah.
And I look back, and the thing was underneath the thing. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. I'm like, Sean, right here. He's like, no way. Yeah.
We found like probably 5 or 6 horns in like within a 20-foot circle right there too.
Yeah,
Wow.
when you find sheds, I mean, start circling, because chances are they're going to be more there, whether either the same buck or a different buck, because they like to hang together in the wintertime.
Yeah.
Yeah, those bucks, just like in the summer, they bachelor up in the wintertime. It's like right after the rut. That's pretty much, unless it's a
You go
young
hang
buck.
with the bros.
Yeah, unless it's a young buck, they come in and they breed the does, and then they're gone and they're bachelored up again, doing their thing.
So, Josh, tell us about your first antler shed hunting
First
experience.
antler shed hunting experiences.
Josh is a very novice shed
I'm
hunter.
retired, by the way. Went out on top. No, I went with Marlon. Was that my first trip?
Yeah, 2 years ago,
It
right?
was like my first trip going shed hunt with Marlon, and I mean, I've hunted in this area, so I know where we're going. I'm like, okay, cool. We'll probably find some sheds. There's a lot of bucks over there, and like we hop out of the truck, and we're literally probably 50 yards into the woods, and I'm just like, walk in. It was me, you, Travis Bishop. I'm walking, and I walk past it, and I look to my left, and literally It was like God.
Dude.
It was like because it's
I'm
in
not
the
even
middle.
kidding.
There's this sunbeam coming down, and the sunbeam is on the horn, and I'm just like, holy shit. And Travis is like, what? And I'm like, I found a monster. I'm like, this thing is huge. And Travis comes over, and he's just like, are you kidding me?
Dude, we were blown away. In all the years of shed hunting, I've never seen an antler like that.
Yeah,
Just,
I've
are
never
you
found one
kidding
that
me?
big.
the thing is so massive, and we'll post a picture of it or something, and maybe that'll be the cover photo for this podcast.
Did you get a
The
picture
people
with
that
them?
follow us on
Yeah.
social media
Oh,
have
okay.
seen it before.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's
monster.
the thing was so big and heavy that when he picked it up, there was an indent in the freaking ground where the thing was laying.
Yeah.
No joke.
Oh.
Like
Jeez.
the thing is
Kind of
massive.
bummed. I wish we
It's like a
were on the other
7
side.
point or 8.
It's like 8, I think.
Yeah, it's got like 8 points on it,
Holy.
It's
it's-
super thick.
and
It's
we.
super heavy.
I literally went back to that same area and I grid searched it with maps
We
and everything.
looked.
Like I spent so much time in there trying to find the other side of that thing and could not find it.
That's
You
Yeah.
think that thing probably fell pretty close? Somebody else might have found it because that's a heavy antler to be on one side of his head for very long of a distance.
Yeah.
No,
Where
he
that
would have
thing-
got that thing off. He
He's
would
gonna
not have
shake
liked
it.
that thing on there.
Yeah.
The thing is that it could have fell in a bush and that thing will sit there and then when it turns white, someone's gonna find it and they're gonna be like,
I'm
oh,
gonna
well.
find it this year.
That's the thing is,
Hopefully it's still
over
alive.
time the sheds, sitting in the sun and the weather, they turn white and they become way easier to find.
The
But
crazy part
when you're looking for something this color in the woods, it
Yeah,
blends
it's
into
tough.
everything.
Opposed to
It's
that.
tough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
The
that's
craziest
a
part of the whole
And this is
story.
even
shed.
this is a brown or this
What
is-
was the craziest part,
The
Josh?
craziest part of this whole
1-year-old.
story is Marlon comes home and sends a picture to his buddy Bobby, and Bobby has this horn probably 4 years prior,
3 years, I think.
3 years prior to
Yeah.
this one that I have. I mean,
Same buck.
it has the same characteristics, the same buck for sure, or same genetics.
The guy said that he literally found it in the exact same area.
Really?
Yeah. So
That's super cool.
That's an old
Yeah.
bruiser.
well, that's just
So Josh is retired.
Yeah.
Shed
I'm
hunter
down.
now.
Going back spear fishing. I'm just kidding. I'm sure I'll get out a couple
Oh.
times.
did you go with me ever again after that? I think we went a
Yeah,
couple
we went
times.
a couple times.
Found some fork and horns, nothing great.
Nothing crazy.
Yeah.
No, but I will go again. I'm sure. Springer season might be a bust. You never know.
No, you're gonna be springer seat fishing like a mofo this
Until
year.
April.
I already guarantee it. So
Yeah.
we won't see Josh out in the shed hunting woods anytime soon.
Good. Stay
Maybe.
away.
Maybe
I
April.
ain't shed year. It's not a good year anyway. So
Yeah, it's a bad year, dude.
Another tip for you guys, make sure that you guys carry binoculars with you. You can cover way more ground with your eyes than you can with your feet.
Yeah.
And what I'll do is I will walk 5-10 feet and I'll glass all around me. And even in thick brush, you can pick out a tine and find horns. This is especially key for like elk shed hunting
Mhm.
on the west side because...
Are we gonna get into elk now? Are we moving off of deer? Don't get
Oh
tangents.
yeah, sorry. we'll talk about elk, but make sure you have binos. It will save your feet a little. It'll probably save your feet a few miles a day.
Well, tell the story Tim just did when we went this last weekend.
So yeah, we went shed hunting this last weekend, and me and Marlon and Phil were just bombing, doing our normal thing. I mean, we were kind of zigging and zagging, but we weren't really covering ground very well. And Tim disappeared for like hours, and we're like, where did he go? We're sitting there eating lunch, waiting for him, and he had spent hours scanning this whole hillside, zigging and zagging and zigging and zagging. And we'd found a couple horns on that hillside, but his efforts paid off, and he comes out with this a giant freshie, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, we probably walked right by that thing. But it pays off when you cover ground like that, you know.
I was talking the binocular story because you were talking about having
Oh,
binoculars.
we'll get into that.
Yeah, so we literally were. So after he comes down with this big antler, we're like, all right, we're gonna go down into this. It was a pretty gnarly hike. Like we're gonna go down this hill, right? So we start going down. We get right to the edge of the trees, and we're all just standing there at the edge of the trees, right? And we're all talking. While we're standing there, he has his binoculars. He pulls them up. Shed, and we're all standing there. I'm like, what? Literally, he pulled his binoculars up and put it right on the shed and walked down and found a fresh 3-point, just right in the edge of the trees.
man.
that happens.
But it was his binoculars. You know, he was picking the ground apart and he freaking found one with his binoculars. So,
Yeah.
dude, I've found quite a few with binos.
I think the biggest thing is training your eyes too. Training your eyes to scan and not scan
That's-
too far ahead.
That's a trick.
That's what I was always doing when we first started. I was looking way too far ahead.
So, and
Wasn't
what
keeping
you can do
everything in
is
perspective.
if you have a horn in your house, like say you're a beginner shed hunter, or you have like an old buck that
Get one from a buddy.
or yeah, if you can get one from a buddy or cut a horn off of one of your old bucks or something. What I did when I started is I'd take the horn with me when I was shed hunting and I'd throw it.
Yep.
So I could see it laying in the wide open, or
I
throw
still
it by
do
a
this.
tree, or like throw it behind my back and turn around and try to find the horn. It'll train your eye.
We were doing that this weekend with Tim's, and we couldn't. Dude, you throw that thing out there, you could not find that thing.
They blend in so
They
good.
blend in so good when they're brown, dude.
Yeah.
When they're
Mhm.
fresh, they blend in so good.
It's just looking for the little tiny characteristics like the points and
Yeah, just like
Just
the
that
big
different
I gotta
shape.
find one.
The big one that Phil found last weekend, he was walking on a hill and he just looked up and all he seen over like the rise of the hill was just the points sticking up, like an inch of each point sticking up. That's all he seen.
Yeah,
So
that's all it takes. I mean, just
when you're shed hunting, you're looking for that
points.
tip, you
points or the
that
curve.
tip or this. This is a key. The bases are white. So
That's money.
when you see that, that's a
Yeah.
shed. Giving away some
Yeah.
little tips right now.
I've tried not to focus on bases at all because a lot of times we're doing it in the snow and it really starts to jack with your eyes if you're looking for white stuff all the time. So I've tried to train my eyes to only look for like points and forks. And I'm not. The other thing, a tip someone told me is stop looking for giants. Like quit training your eyes to look for an antler like Josh's because then you're not going to find anything.
Like that giant 34-inch deadhead.
Yeah, exactly. Like, quit training your eyes to find
the fake
monsters.
deadhead we thought we found.
The big, the pine bush or the pine branches that looked like a 34-inch deadhead sticking out of the
Yeah.
snow.
Yeah, so throw a fork and horn out into the woods and train your eyes to find that.
Well, that
Yeah.
one I found this last weekend was a tiny
That was
little
insane.
fork and horn.
Yeah.
That's the smallest shit I've ever found. I was more stoked about that than finding a giant, just because
And you found one that was like
so
with
small.
your
How do we
binoculars.
post a picture then?
it's scheduled.
Scheduled.
I have the find of the weekend though. I found an ancient deer shed last weekend
It
that
was so cool.
only like 4 inches of the like main beam was sticking out.
You
and it
spotted
was-
that with your binoculars too,
Yeah, I
didn't you?
spotted it with my binoculars, and it was sticking out of the ground like 4 inches. And I was just scanning with my binos. I'm like,
That looks kind of shitty.
yeah, there was a little fork on the top. I'm like, no, a stick doesn't fork like that. I'm like, that's a shed. And I walk up and I just dig this thing out of the ground. It's pretty gnarly.
That's
but it
so
was in
cool, though,
good
'cause,
shape.
I mean,
it's in great shape.
How
It's just
long? I mean,
old.
how long has that been sitting there? And how many people do you think walked by that?
Oh, so many.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
I've walked by. I've picked up sheds the following year that I know for a fact that I've walked by that probably 20 times.
yeah.
Oh yeah, where you guys went into that area we shed hunt all the time, and you guys found like 10 or something, didn't
I
you?
found
12, yeah.
I found four.
So crazy. to
You
me.
found 3.
All
Phil
ones.
found 3, and it was all areas. I guarantee you guys have
Oh
walked.
yeah, we've walked right by those ones. Every
And they're-
single one of them.
That one I found was that would have been nice.
Lonnie's
fresh.
got that buck on his camera too.
Does he?
Yeah, I'm pretty positive I've
Oh.
seen that buck before. I seen the sheds and I'm like, yeah, I know that buck.
That's cool.
That's freaking awesome.
I wish it wasn't chewed up. I got to give it to Tim. Fix up.
Yeah.
That's another thing. You guys can like the whites. You guys can like YouTube repair them.
You can repaint them. Yeah, you can stain them. There's a lot of different things you can do. Tim's got it down.
Yeah.
I'm gonna send a couple horns his way. Some of my big ones that have a little bit of chew marks on them and stuff.
Yeah, you just
I found
fill
it.
them in.
Big set last year that was white, and I want it like recolored, and
That 4-point set.
yeah,
I
that
think
was
giant.
a stud.
Well,
Want to talk about elk?
we talked a lot about deer. We covered a lot. I think we should move over to the elk side of things.
Yeah, so elk hunting is a little bit different. I personally enjoy elk shed hunting a lot more than deer, just because they're way easier to spot.
And they're big.
And they're huge.
And they're
They're
big.
giant.
And when you find a couple elk sheds in a day, it's like you won the lottery. I feel like.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
But getting into elk shed hunting, I started when I was younger from my uncle. He kind of was like really into it, and so I started doing it. And I always wondered why I never found elk sheds when I was hunting. I'm like, well, if these things are everywhere, like why did I never find them? But
I've actually found one during September. You saw that picture that Marlon sent you of that big 7 that I'm holding?
oh yeah,
I didn't find it. My uncle found that in September, and it looked like that still.
that's crazy.
I'm like,
Was it
what
West Side?
I mean, if it's sitting in shade,
if it's
like
in
a
the
shade
shade,
area.
if it's in the shade and if it's under or covered with foliage, I mean, the chances are it's still going to look pretty fresh.
Oh, it was like super fresh
Yeah.
looking.
But with elk shed hunting,
Anyways.
I try to key on alder draws.
Mhm.
I mean, again, going the same thing with deer shed hunting. You're keying in on what
Location.
those elk are doing at that time of the year.
Feed,
Yeah,
bedding.
alder draws, big open timber. I don't shed hunt reprod very much, or elk shed hunt reprod very much, just because it's a pain. But I have found them in that clear cuts. I found a lot of elk sheds in clear cuts. They're kind of a pain to pick apart because every single stick looks like an elk
yeah.
shed.
Yep.
But that's one
And
place,
they're
like if
horrible
you
to
know
walk
you
in.
have a herd of elk that's hanging out in this area, they're going to be feeding in that clear cut. That's an area where you need to grid pattern that whole clear cut. And you'll find sheds.
Or right where you think they're going to bedding. I mean, if they're feeding in that clear cut, just go where they're bedding.
Yep, exactly.
So what makes an elk drop its shed so much later than deer?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
Yeah.
It boggles my mind.
Because
They-
they're
So much.
bigger.
They hold their antlers.
Yeah, right.
No, but moose drop their sheds
Yeah.
first, and they're way bigger than elk.
Uh-huh.
I don't understand why they hold them longer, but they do. And they grow them faster and bigger.
Mhm.
It's kind of a wild spectrum.
Yeah, it's super crazy because they start growing them like instantly.
Oh, yeah. They'll
I
drop
saw someone
them.
posted a picture yesterday of a velvet freaking elk thing that was already growing his antlers.
Yep.
It's amazing how many inches they can grow in a few months. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah. It's
It intrigues me that much more. Like I just love.
It's nuts
deer and
because they
elk,
start at they drop their sheds and then a 400 or 300 class bull grows that all within that time frame.
Yeah.
That's insane.
They say that an elk can, and even I think this goes for elk and deer, but they can grow up to an inch a day.
Yeah.
So no, it's more than that. It's something
something
crazy
like that, though.
Yeah. But it's like those things are just like. While they're doing it, you can like put a time lapse video and watch their horns grow in a day.
Cool.
That would be pretty cool. But yeah, elk shed hunting. I focus on alder draws, clear cuts, big timber areas where you're going to be able to see. If you want to get on your hands and knees and go crawl through reprod, like
No thanks.
That's for us
How about
west
it?
side
I think
guys.
walking through clear cuts is even worse.
yeah, that
East side of the state, or east side, east of the Cascades. I mean, you're still probably going to be focusing on south-facing slopes where the snow melt is.
exactly. And I don't shed hunt much for like Rocky Mountains. We generally focus on Roosevelt too.
Right.
But yeah, you're exactly right.
Yeah, you just the same thing as deer. Find those south-facing slopes, pattern them, watch them. I mean, do your scouting. Go out there and do some pre-scouting. Find out where they're hanging out.
Yep. What about you, Marlon? You've been getting into elk shed hunting lately, the last few years, pretty hardcore.
Dude, just same tip I gave people in the beginning. Go online and find the wintering areas.
Yeah.
Because elk are even way more migratory than, like,
Yep.
I've found that most of the areas that a lot of big herds of elk live, they come down into the lower lands in the snow and they drop their antlers
Yep.
low. So if you can find where those elk are at, you just got to know where they're at and go find them.
Yep, exactly.
And then shoot the people. Let's talk about one thing really quick while we're on the subject of elk, because this is one thing that just absolutely pisses me off more than anything. And there's a lot of areas around here that are closed.
Yeah.
They don't open until certain dates.
Yep.
And there's all these freaking dudes that are sneaking into these areas
And stashing
and
or
stashing or
stashing.
taking the horns or doing whatever. And it's like, dude, not only are you having adverse effect on these elk, you're just making it so unfair for all of us that are playing by the rules.
Yep.
Bleep that F word.
But it's
You
true.
know?
No, it's absolutely true. Don't go in there.
Dude, it
in
frustrates
enclosed
me.
areas, don't go in there early.
Last year, dude, I'm walking into the area. I had been watching these freaking elk. I knew where they were at. I'm like, I'm going to do good this year, you know? I park in my spot. I start to walk in, and it's like just now getting light, right? Like, just now getting light. Some guy comes, he's walking out, and he's literally has like 15 sheds, and they're all like, and I'm like, man, you did good for it not being light out. He's like, yeah, I got in here and just came in the dark and started flashlighting around, and I'm like, no,
Right.
you didn't. And
And
I
you were
wanted to.
probably there opening day.
It was opening day.
Yeah,
It was when the season
exactly.
opened. It was opening morning.
He's
So
trying.
he stashed them. He had gone in there early. He'd snatched them. And it's like, dude, I wanted to fight that guy. I was so mad, because it's like I felt like I put in the effort to do it right and legally, and then here's this guy that just yeah, he put in a lot of effort too, but he's like, he just ruins it.
Yeah.
And what people are going to really be pissed is when they just close those areas completely.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what's going to happen for you dudes that are out there sneaking into these areas. Eventually, they're just going to say, guess what? No one gets to shed hunt them.
Yeah, because these are state managed areas, and they can close them at any time.
Yep.
They can say this is a wintering ground till hunting season, and they can allow no access in there.
And that's what I fear. I think a lot of us fear that, you know. And I see a lot of people getting mad when these, you know, you see the game department starting to put like trackers and antlers and stuff. And I'm like high-fiving them. Do that shit.
I wish they would
If
regulate
you're
it more.
Gonna be illegal, then guess what? Pay the consequences. You know, that's just all
Play
there is to
stupid
it.
games, win stupid prizes.
Exactly.
Mhm.
So, if you guys are listening out there and you can have any effect on trying to make sure that that doesn't happen, please do so. Tell people, turn people in if you see people in there sneaking in, because I'm going to turn you in. And I'm going to tell you what, I have my own trail cameras in there now in areas where these spots are, and if I get a picture of you, you're getting turned in. So,
As you should. And
Period.
My uncle
Absolutely.
has done the same thing, and he has the same issues. He watches the elk that over where he lives, and it's one of those areas where you can't go until May or April 1st. I can't remember the date.
it's May 1st.
Yeah, May
Yeah,
1st.
it's May 1st.
And he's turned guys in, but the Department of Fish and Wildlife doesn't really do anything about it. I mean, I know they're strong.
I think they're getting more strict with it nowadays. I mean, just with
But when you turn them in with evidence, they're screwed.
Yeah.
With
So
other
if
states
we got a
influencing-
picture of you or a video of you doing something illegal, you're screwed.
Yeah.
So
Just, play by the rules.
Well, just to clarify, you said you have a camera in there. Obviously, you put that up well before.
oh yeah,
Okay.
there's areas
Just
that
because I know that's going to be a comment or
you
a
can
question.
go in there and do all sorts. There's just certain times a year it's not open.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's like 6 months or something
Yeah.
out of the year. Or maybe not even that. Maybe
It's
only
not
like
even
3
6 months.
4 months.
Yeah.
I think
it's
it's
not-
January. Yeah, January through May,
Yeah.
or February through May, something like that. I can't remember.
Just be a good Samaritan and do the right thing.
Yeah,
That's what we're trying to
everybody
advocate.
go, and it's like these areas that aren't open till May. There's tons of sheds in there. It could be a super cool opportunity to bring your family, your kids. Go out there, have a really good time. Everybody's gonna get sheds. Why do you feel the need to go get them all?
Yeah. People are greedy, but whatever. We'll still keep doing our thing, and we still find sheds, and we.
And I still found 9
Yeah.
sheds that day.
Yeah.
So it was still good.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's frustrating,
People get the easy ones,
Mm-hmm.
the window licker horns.
Yeah.
But I wanted to talk about a funny story. We had a day we went shed hunting, elk shed hunting this last year, and we were planning on doing a pretty crazy hike that day. And this day was crazy for 2 reasons. For one, Ben brought his son Lane, and that kid was a trooper. He
Yeah.
was hiking in some gnarly stuff in rubber boot, or was
Yeah.
it rubber boots
It was
or Romeos or something?
Romeos.
You guys put
Romeos.
on miles that day.
Oh,
you guys
yeah.
put on like 14 miles that day.
14 miles that
14 and
day.
a half
And he
miles.
didn't even complain one. The
These
only-
were not easy 14 miles.
Yeah.
These were like the worst 14 miles of your life.
yeah, except Lane, like every time he turned around, he's like, "Hey, can I have some of your water?" So like he drank like half of my bladder that day. But anyway, so we wanted Lane to find his first elk shed. So we found a couple and we're hiking, and me and Marlon stop, and I think we're eating a granola bar or something. And I'm like, "Oh, there's a shed right there." And Marlon's like, "Where?" And I'm like, "I can just see the tine sticking out of the grass." This shed was completely like buried. I could just see one tine sticking up, and I just thought like it was maybe a little raghorn bull or something. And I had seen Lane coming over the hillside, and
Right for it.
oh yeah, and we're like, "Lane, just keep walking." And we have this all on video.
Yeah, I saw that video. It's
And-
hilarious.
Lane's walking, and he's literally like doing circles around this horn, and you cannot see him. We're like, "Lane, it's right in front of you." And it is probably my most favorite video that we have.
Dude,
It is
it's epic.
hilarious. And then he finally finds this thing, and he grabs it, and he yanks it out of the grass, and it's like a really nice 5-point shed. And I'm like, "Damn, that thing was."
I couldn't believe it.
It was
My
nice shit.
reaction was priceless because he pulls it out and I'm like, whoa, I didn't expect it to be that big.
I know. But the look on his face was all worth it. It was super cool.
And then he carried that thing out of there.
Yep.
Yeah.
On his shoulders.
Yeah, he's a trooper.
Yeah,
for sure.
he freaking. I mean, his dad helped him a little bit, but that kid's gonna be a savage.
Oh yeah, he's gonna be an animal in the woods. But anyway, so we we put on a lot of miles that day.
We ran out of water, all of us.
We all ran out of water, and for some reason, none of us had our water purification our filters in our packs. I don't know why. I always have it on me, but we didn't, and we got to where we had to like do a death hike over a couple ridges, and we were all beat and dehydrated, and we're coming out of this canyon, and people start cramping up, like everybody's lagging pretty hard. And we just started drinking water off the side of the hill. We're like, if we get beaver fever, like whatever, like I don't care, I'll deal with it tomorrow. But it was bad. And then Marlon, you can
Yeah, so I was like, I was jacked. I'm not gonna lie. That was probably some of the gnarliest hiking I've done, and it was all my idea. This is all my plan. I'm doing this. We're gonna find so many sheds, and I did it. I was fine up until we started climbing that hill, and then I was getting tired. I was cramping up, but I was fine. And then we started climbing that hill, and I just pushed myself way too hard and sent my body like into shock, like to where it wouldn't even move. Like I started puking, like throwing up, getting super dizzy, like head spins. And Phil is like, Marlon, just lay down. I was like shivering, like uncontrollably, could not stop shaking. It was scary. I went in, I don't know what I did. It was like shock, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened, but basically I laid down and Phil I went freezing cold, which I shouldn't have been cold. Like we were all like so hot because sweating and like hot. And I was like freezing cold. Anyway, I laid down and Phil put his jacket over me, and I just basically laid there for like 20 minutes.
Yeah, because we made it to the top, and we didn't hear or see you guys for like an hour, and we were getting worried,
Yeah.
And because we were ahead of them, we were trying to get up to the truck, and we were going to get waters and bring them back to everybody. And Marlon and Phil were nowhere to be found. It was crazy.
So Phil stayed with me and basically nursed me back to life. I basically just laid there, and I just closed my eyes and just tried to let my body calm down. Phil helped me a ton, and then I just started feeling better. And then as I started hiking the hill again, Phil was like right by my side the whole way, like helping me up the freaking hill.
He's such a good dude.
But then once I got up top, and I felt like once Phil calmed me down, and then I took my time up the hill the rest of the way, I was fine. But I definitely just pushed my body to somewhere it shouldn't have been pushed to.
And that's another thing you guys need to keep in mind, prepare for the worst. Make sure you have plenty of food.
That's what I was going to say.
Plenty
Let's
of
talk about
water.
what you bring
This
with you.
this type of season, you can get into a lot of snow.
Yep.
Bring some layers and some snow and rain gear if you
Bring some
have
layers. Make sure you bring a compass. Make sure you bring your GPS or Onyx. I was kind of drawn into this story with Marlon. So we go on this hike, and I'm running my Onyx on it's not my current phone, but my older phone, and I know the battery's not great. And I'm in the back of my head, I'm like, I think I have my compass in here. And the area that we're hiking in is you can get turned around. I have a pretty good sense of direction, but everything looks the same. And we're walking, I'm checking my Onyx, checking my track, and I'm like, Marlon's gone. I don't know where he went. Typical Marlon's just boom, he's gone.
10% battery.
About that time, my Onyx dies.
Oh no.
And I'm like, all right, cool. I'm going back. And I start to go back, and I'm like, none of this looks familiar. But I don't have my compass, so I don't know, I know which way to get out, but I don't have my compass. So, just a learning lesson. Don't always rely on electronics. Make sure you have a compass with you as well, even when you're just shed hunting.
Yep, that's a great tip.
Yeah.
And what else? Have some food, bring some dry food or some snacks.
Dude, one of those
or something.
filtration
Just
things
be
is
smart.
a must.
That
gotta
does
have a
not
water
leave my
filtration
pack.
That's what was
that's
so
one
weird
thing
about-
that I never leave. I never take that out of my pack, because no matter how much water you think you have, say your buddy forgets water and you're giving him half your water, you're going to need to refill. I've ran into many situations where we've had to use the filter.
Well, that instance was so rare because, like you said, I never take mine out of my pack.
Yeah.
There's certain things I leave in my pack, and I cannot believe I didn't have it. And Cliff hunts a lot. Ben hunts a lot. I can't believe none of us have water filtration systems.
Or drops or anything.
Yeah, we didn't have anything, and it was that was a huge learning lesson, I think, for all of us.
Absolutely.
To be better prepared.
Yeah,
when
I would
you're
just
out
say
there.
go
And we learned that area too, not to go in and out the way we went in.
Yeah.
There's easier ways in and out.
Yeah, it was worth it though. We
Dude,
had a
it was
blast.
fun. We found 7 nice sheds or
Yeah.
6 nice sheds, and
Me and Phil scaled a waterfall. It was fun.
That's pretty awesome. I just make sure you have good boots, maybe a change of socks, compass, something to start a fire if you have to.
Some layers.
Just
One of
like
those fire
basic-
sticks. That's another.
basic
That's,
survival stuff.
I mean, I hate to go on a tangent, but that's one of those things that another one of those things I keep in my pack all the time. Is just one of those fire sticks.
Yeah.
Instant fire starter, like, or
Bro, I'm an Eagle Scout, dude.
what
Just
level?
a couple like
What level?
I'm literally an Eagle Scout, the highest you can be.
He's tooting his horn right now.
I always have cotton balls.
Cotton
soaked
balls
in
and Vaseline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if all
Those
these
are
It's an
a
easy
game changer,
It's an
man.
easy
Yeah.
fire starter
Yeah.
right there.
Fire
The-
stick, something to make fire, because this time of year the weather can change on you pretty fast. If you're up in the mountains, like where we're shit hunting, I mean, the clouds rolling by, weather can move in really fast.
Yep, absolutely.
And
That
you got to
happened to me
build
and
a
Marlon
fire.
last year
Mhm.
where we were shit hunting. It was a nice sunny day, and all of a sudden started
Blizzard.
snowing on us. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah,
But it's just
Just be smart.
anytime you go out in the woods, you should be prepared. Like
Right.
not just shed hunting anytime, because you just never know.
just your simplest hike. I mean, just be
Never
prepared.
know. Yeah.
Anything can happen.
Well, and you guys have heard me talk about this in other podcasts, but I invested in one of those inReaches,
Mhm.
and it's got an SOS button, and I can text via satellite. So if I get into a sticky situation, like I can get help.
That's pretty cool.
And I think they're well worth the money. It's a GPS too, so you can. I mean, most of us use our phones anyhow, but your phones die.
And
The battery on that GPS lasts for like a
External
week of me using it
charger.
every day. Yeah.
Their external chargers are game changers, especially if you're running a
Yeah.
phone as your.
I think we need to do a whole podcast on the stuff that you're talking about right now.
No, I agree.
We need to tell people like what we use in our packs and what you guys like bring
Like
that you think's
must-haves.
like necessities.
Yeah.
We
So
will,
we should definitely do that.
yeah, we'll definitely do that. All right, guys. For you beginners out there, just getting started in shed hunting, hopefully these tips helped you out. Definitely keep in mind that
you're still going into the woods.
yeah, you're still going in the woods.
Could
be
be
prepared.
Yeah.
I hope that these tips were helpful for you, and
Let us know what you
Hopefully,
find.
get some of you guys out there looking for sheds.
Yeah, if you guys find any, I mean, let us know.
No, it's all right. You guys can just stay and look at my pictures. No, seriously though, get out. It's fun. It's a blast.
It's a good time.
and make sure that you please hit that subscribe button.
Yes, and all you YouTubers out there, we're filming these now.
Yeah,
We're gonna try to make these a lot more immersive. Try to bring antlers in, bring like bows in for you guys to look at and show people, and hopefully make this podcast a lot more immersive in the coming weeks. So make sure you tap subscribe button because we got some cool stuff coming.
and I
This
think we got a
is
new
for you
studio
guys.
coming.
Yep.
I think we got a new studio.
Always telling people too much.
Jeez.
All right, thanks a lot for following along. We hope we were helpful for your next shed adventure.
Get out there.
Thanks,
Do it.
guys.
Thanks,
Get out
guys.
there.
Hashtag no originates.